Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Basketball Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Today, I'm your host, Nick Robin, and let's get started here. Let's see, what is new in my life? Since the last episode, not really much has changed over these last 6 to 7 months. Looks like San Diego is in for another lockdown. Unfortunately, I was told that 700 plus students contracted COVID at San Diego State. The school has only been open since the beginning of this month. That's just incredible because there's about 30,000 students. So if we're looking at 700, that's about over 2% of the entire school population that has already contracted the virus. Not sure why our country has decided to let kids go back to school because, I can barely trust myself not going into large crowds. I'm 27 years old, so I really doubt that 18 to 22-year-olds have the ability to stop themselves from going out, partying, drinking, going to large crowds. I even heard that this is one thing, I heard that my old fraternity is actually having online rush, which I am blown away at how that's going to work. I think about 15% of students rush. So they're just going to have 100 to 300 people just enter into one chat room. They must have some kind of organization or maybe an interview time for all the kids to come in and speak with all of them. But it just sounds like you might want to just cut your losses this semester and wait till spring for people to rush. But for these freshmen, it's a good way to meet people. There are a lot of negative stigmas about fraternities and sororities, but in my opinion, it's the best way to make a large school feel small. It's your own little community within a larger community. But moving on, today's show, we will be looking at Murray and whether or not he may be the next Kobe Bryant. Then we will discuss the ex-Lakers team, the roster that we could create with all 24 players that the Lakers have dropped since the 2013 season. And on Nick's Picks, we'll look at the best players throughout the NBA 2K franchise. But first, a look at last night's 114-106 Nuggets win over the Lakers. And we now got a series. I did not see this being a sweep as the Nuggets have been so resilient throughout the playoffs. We know about the two comebacks from 3-1 deficits, becoming the only team in NBA history to do that more than once in a single postseason. And the stars came out for the Nuggets. Murray, 28 points, 10 of 17 from the field, 4 of 8 from behind the arc, 12 rebounds, 8 assists, so 2 assists shy of a triple-double. 2 steals, and he had 2 late daggers to put the game away. And Jokic gave you his typical 22, 10, and 5, but it was the rotational players stepping up that proved to be the difference in this game. And then let's look at Michael Porter Jr., Jeremy Grant, and Monte Morris. Grant had a career high 26 points, a career high in the playoffs, 26 points, and this tandem combined for 49 points, 17 of 24 from the field, 5 for 11 from deep. So that proved to be a big difference maker in this game for the Nuggets. They just, no matter how many times the Lakers tried to come back, the Nuggets just threw them another haymaker, and they weren't able to make up the ground as the Lakers put themselves in their biggest deficit this entire postseason, trailing as much as 20 in the third quarter. The Lakers continued to come back, cutting the lead to 99-96 with about 4 minutes to play, but that is the closest they would get as the Nuggets would go on to win 114-106. And I'm going to take a look right now at Anthony Davis and LeBron's numbers in the losses in the postseason so far. So they lost game 1 versus the Blazers, 100-93. Anthony Davis and LeBron combined to go 17 of 44 from the field, just 1 of 10 from 3. So they shot 38.6%, not great from their, not great for anyone's standards. In their game 1 loss and their biggest postseason loss this year, game 1 versus the Rockets lost 112-97. Combined to go 17 of 31, well over 50%, but shot only 3 of 9 from behind the arc. And then last night, they shot 23 of 40 from the field for 57 points, but were only 1 of 8 from 3. And that is where the problem stood for the Lakers last night. They just could not hit anything from deep. They went 6 for 26, and they weren't that great free throw line either, as they shot only 14 of 22, good for 63.6%. And that has been this team's kryptonite all season long, is their get into cold streaks. They're not the best three-point shooting team, definitely not the best free throw shooting team in the league, as you could see from last night. But it wasn't just that. They got trounced on the boards as well. They were out-rebounded by 19 and only came away with 4 offensive rebounds. And their leading rebounder, Anthony Davis, was a no-show, an absolute no-show for the first 3 quarters. He entered the fourth quarter with 0 rebounds and didn't even secure his first rebound until 4 minutes and 56 seconds left in the game. He looked tired throughout the fourth quarter. He was lethargic, running around, guarding, flailing his arms, doing that thing he does where he just gets the ball in the low post, does a quick 2-step dribble, and just throws it up there. Wasn't the player that we've seen throughout this postseason. And that's okay. I mean, sometimes you're just not going to have it. And really, it wasn't even the Lakers game that they lost. It was more the Nuggets just came out, were better, were more aggressive early on, took a large lead starting in the second quarter. They went on a 17-2 run, putting them up 44-29. They led by 10 at the half, 63-53. And they just didn't have the energy, especially in that first half. In the third quarter, the Lakers made a run, but the Nuggets came back to put the deficit up 20. Again, the biggest deficit the Lakers have faced this postseason. But then the fourth quarter came around, and they were nearly down 18 or 20 entering the fourth. They went on a 19-2 run in that quarter. They cut the lead to 99-96. And I thought the Lakers had the chance to take control because, as we know, LeBron has been so clutch in the fourth quarter, largely in the second half of his career, ever since that 2010-2011 meltdown. He's been as clutch as they come. Most people don't want to admit it, but the numbers speak for themselves. LeBron has the most game-winning shots, 5, in NBA postseason history. So it's a 4-point game. There's 2 minutes and 31 seconds left. And this is when Jamal Murray, who's been on fire all postseason long, stood up when his team needed him most. So let's walk through the situation again. The Nuggets, they're clinging to a 103-99 lead. 2 minutes, 30 seconds left. Jamal Murray has the ball in his hand. 2:17 mark, 26-footer, good. Nuggets up 106-99. Take it down the court. next possession, Murray, assist to Millsap, dunk, 108-99. And then with less than a minute left, Murray, a 29-footer to ice the game. It's over. There's no comeback tonight for the Lakers. Murray stepped up when his team needed him most, not Jokic. Murray, the second superstar on this Nuggets team. Yes, the Lakers are great. They have the two best players in the series, but this Nuggets team aren't too shabby themselves. They have Jamal Murray, only 23 years old, who has raised his scoring average by nearly 10 points a game this postseason. Jokic, last year made a first-team All-NBA. This year, second team, only 25 years old. And then the emergence of Michael Porter Jr. And God, it angers me that so many teams missed on Michael Porter Jr. He was the number one prospect in his class, goes to Missouri, ends up missing nearly the entire season after playing a game or two. His draft stock takes a deep nosedive due to the fact that he's not playing, and this always seems to happen a lot lately with these top players missing the majority of their college seasons and directly affecting their draft stock. Examples, Bol Bol, Harry Giles. Harry Giles hasn't shown much yet, but he's still young, was still one of the best players in this class, and the players I've talked to from San Diego State said he was an elite talent. So I'm not sure why they fall outside of the lottery. Because, I mean, once you get to those 8 to 14 picks, it's honestly a crapshoot. So many of those guys are out of the league within 3 to 5 seasons. Looking at the Clippers, though, they had the 12th pick and the 13th pick. Jerome Robinson was their 13th pick. Jerome Robinson. I'm pretty sure he's not even on the team anymore. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was drafted 11th by Charlotte, traded to the Clippers for Miles Bridges. They had the second pick. They could have used it on Michael Porter. What's the worst that could happen? That would have been a great complement player on a Clippers team that needed more big depth. Instead, he falls at 14th to the Nuggets. Although he's had some defensive lapses, he said some things out of turn. He's played remarkable for such a young player who barely played in the regular season this year as he was coming back from injury. Just turned 22 in June. So you have, again, Jokic 25, Jamal Murray 23, Michael Porter Jr. 22. And this postseason, he's averaged nearly 12 points a game with 7 rebounds, shooting 46 from the field, a positive 37% from deep, and nearly 80% from the line. Great for a player who, in the regular season, only averaged 16.4 minutes a game. And if you look at his per 36 numbers, he was incredible. I think, to be clear, I think sometimes these per 36 numbers can be a little misleading, but his per 36 was 20 points, 10 rebounds, nearly 2 assists, 50% from the field, 42% from deep, and 83% from the line. So I think give him another year or two to grow into himself a little bit more, still coming back from injury, one that does take a while to come back from. So the Nuggets might have one of the best young cores in the NBA. Enough on this jerk-off set on Michael Porter Jr. Back to the game here. And in the last 3 minutes, Anthony Davis and LeBron James combined to take one shot. You can't be having Rondo shooting threes, Kuzma shooting threes down the stretch when you're trying to come back. They're great players, but those aren't the guys you want taking the shots. You want LeBron, you want AD, or you at least want open looks on a pass from LeBron. And despite the loss, the Lakers led in nearly every statistical category outside of rebounds, field goal percentage, three-point percentage, and free throw percentage. But those are some of the most important ones. So despite the fact that the Lakers didn't shoot that great from three-point range or free throw or from the free throw line, they still were able to put themselves back in this game. I see the Lakers coming out hot next game, but that's the problem there. If they win, they're up 3-1 on the Nuggets. And as we've seen, you don't want to be up 3-1 on the Nuggets this postseason. But at the same time, you don't want to lose, you don't want to lose and then be tied 2-2, especially when the Nuggets could have easily won Game 2. But thank God for the buzzer beater by Anthony Davis. It's going to be a tough series. I mean, no one thought this was going to be a cakewalk. This is a great Nuggets team with a great head coach in Mike Malone, a great set of rotational players that really stepped up in Game 3, but I don't count on Jeremy Grant to be dropping 20-plus a game for this Nuggets team. Next game, Thursday, we'll have to wait and see. After this commercial break, we're talking Jamal Murray, and is he the next Kobe or is he Steph Curry? That and more after this commercial break.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines. They got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back to the show. We just discussed the Lakers' crushing defeat at the hands of the Denver Nuggets last night at 114-106 to bring the series to 2-1. Lakers ahead thanks to the buzzer beater by Anthony Davis in Game 2. Game 4 will be on Thursday, but what I want to talk about right now is the man, Jamal Murray, who has just been incredible this postseason for a Denver Nuggets team that so badly needs his offense. And in the regular season, he averaged a modest 18.5 points a game, 4 rebounds, 4.8 assists. And in the playoffs, he has stepped up his game another level, averaging 26.5 points a game, shooting 50% from the field, and an incredible 47.7% from 3 on 7.6 attempts per game. So I did a little research, found some player comparisons to Kobe Bryant and a Steph Curry. I'm going to get to those in a sec, but let's see the manner, the conversations that Jamal Murray is currently in with the postseason he's putting up. Aside from the 26 points on the efficient shooting, he's averaging 6.5 assists and 5 rebounds, both over his regular season average. And he's playing an impressive 39 minutes per game. And let's see. So for players who, in their age 23 season in the playoffs, that have averaged at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, he is one of only 4 players. The others being Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, who did the feat 3 separate times, Dwayne Wade, and his own teammate, Nikola Jokic, who accomplished it last season. And out of those players, in terms of the three-point percentage, he has by far the highest three-point percentage by nearly 10%. Jokic shot 39.3% last year. Again, Jamal Murray is shooting 47.7% this year. I do want to point out that this is a minimum of 13 games played, as he's now played 17 games, the second most out of any of these players that qualified, LeBron having the most with 20. Murray could pass that number in games played. So we are looking at one of arguably the greatest postseason performances by a player 23 or younger. And my God, can we just go back to that? LeBron James accomplished this 3 different times. His age 21 season, his age 22 season, and his age 23 season. Impressive. That is, Jesus Christ. There's only 7 names on this list. 3 of them, again, are LeBron. Again, the others, Jamal Murray, Jokic, Dwayne Wade, and the late Kobe Bryant. We are seeing things that have never been done before, and he is doing it at such an efficient rate. Like, I thought eventually he'd drop off in terms of how well he's been shooting the ball for 3. And the crazy part is, during the regular season and for his career, so in the regular season this year, he shot a modest 34.6%, and for his career, he's 35.8%. So I'm not sure what's happened, where he's gotten this extra confidence to be able to shoot the ball from the perimeter at such a high rate. It's just incredible. Incredible. And then when we take away the age gap, this particular feat, again, with a minimum of 13 games played in the postseason, has only been accomplished 48 times in postseason history, where a guy has averaged 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists. But let's take this a step further, which I always like to do. So I put in the following: shooting at least 50% from the field and 40% from 3. And only 4 players have accomplished that. Jamal Murray, LeBron James during the 2016-2017 playoffs, the year after they won the title, when they had one of the most elite offenses in postseason history, but it came up against a Warriors team that was hungry, with a KD who had not yet won that first title. And, I mean, they went down 4-1, but who can blame them when you're playing against one of the greatest teams of all time? And then Nikola Jokic, who's doing that this postseason, this 2019-2020 postseason. So not only is Jamal Murray doing this, Nikola Jokic is doing it as well. And then Larry Bird, Larry Legend, who accomplished the feat twice during the 83-84 and 85-86 postseason. That is just incredible. Jamal Murray finds himself in rarefied air right now. The fact that at 23 years old, he's having one of the best postseasons of all time. Unfortunately, he has to play against this Lakers team. They find themselves down 2-1, but who knows? Maybe they can find a little bit more magic, and if they lose tomorrow, they'll be down 3-1, and as we already know, when the Nuggets are down 3-0, they don't lose. They are 6-0 this postseason when they are down 3-1 in a series. Let's take another look at that stat again. So, again, all-time postseason minimum 13 games played. And just so we know, Murray and Jokic have played 17 games. So, yes, a minimum of 17 games played. Players that have averaged at least 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists while shooting 50% from the field, 40% from 3. 5 times it has happened. 2 times, Larry Legend, a top 5, top 10 player of all time. LeBron James, easily a top 5 player of all time. And then Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, who happen to be on the same team in the same postseason. I'm guessing in order to come back from 2-3-1 deficits, you need something as historic as these 2 players are playing. They are playing at an elite level. And it's not like they're shooting 1, 2, or 3 three-pointers a game. Jokic is averaging 5.4 attempts a game. Jamal Murray, 7.6. Not only are they volume shooters, they're efficient volume shooters. Incredible. The postseason that Jamal Murray and Jokic are having together. So let's go into Jamal Murray. He shoots the ball like Curry. He can get to the basket like Kobe. He plays steady defense. He can guard quicker, smaller guards and bigger, longer, lankier guards. Guys who are 6'6", 6'7", he doesn't have a problem. The guy is relentless, and he's got that Kobe swag, the little shimmy he was doing after he hit that 3 last night. The guy is incredible. Now look at the comparison to these other greats, Curry and Kobe. If you look at the numbers, and I'm looking at their first 4 seasons, and yes, it took Curry a little bit of time and I'd say Kobe even a little bit more time to get into who they were as players. So again, we're looking at Jamal Murray through 4 seasons at age 23, Kobe through 4 seasons at age 21, then Curry through 4 seasons at age 24. Looking at the numbers, Jamal Murray, 15.6 points a game, Kobe, 15.9, and Steph Curry, 19.2 points a game through their first 4 seasons. So Murray is just right around where these players were, but as we know, Kobe exploded, especially after Shaq went to the Heat into the scorer that he eventually became. And looking at the per 36 numbers, we get a little bit more of a clearer picture. We have Kobe at 20.1 points a game. He had a limited minute count in those first couple of years. I mean, the guy was only 17 when he came to the league. Curry, 19.2. Jamal, 19.2. So very close. The shooting percentages, Murray was a little less efficient than the other two, shooting 44% from the field. Kobe, 45. Steph, 46.5. We look at the three-point percentages. Curry wins at a landslide, shooting nearly a full 10% better than both Kobe and Jamal. But then let's get into the postseason. And this is where Jamal stands above even Kobe Bryant. So we're looking at 97 through 2000, those first 4 Kobe seasons. In 99-2000, he won that first title. And through 50 playoff games, he was averaging 15.9 points per game. Curry, 23.4, very respectable. And this is from 2013. Well, this is in 2013, his only postseason appearance up to that point. And then Jamal, through 31 games. That's a big sample size, nearly half a season. And he's averaging 24.2 points per game. And he is shooting 42.3% for his career in the postseason. That is ahead of Stephen Curry at 39.6 and well ahead of Kobe Bryant, who shot only 31.5% from 3. We all like to think that Kobe is this great three-point shooter, and he is for the most part because he does take very difficult shots, but he is not nearly as efficient as Curry and nowhere near in the same realm as Jamal Murray at this stage in his career. It is a shame that we are witnessing one of the greatest 1-2 combos in postseason history with Murray and Jokic, but they're coming up against a team with LeBron James, who is on a mission to get that 4th championship, as well as Anthony Davis, who is just gnawing at that teeth to get that first NBA championship under his belt as well. So it's just bad timing, but Murray, Jokic is a duo that the NBA is going to have the privilege to watch for the next decade. Hopefully, if these two can stay together, which I think Denver is going to try everything in their power to make sure that these two guys stay happy and stay in Denver, along with Michael Porter Jr. They have Jeremy Grant, a 6'7", 6'8" guard forward who can defend the other team's best players. That leaves more room for Jokic and Murray to operate and do what they do best on the offensive side. Back to the comparison. Jamal Murray can shoot like Curry. He can get to the basket like Kobe. Let's not do the comparisons here. Jamal Murray is just Jamal Murray, and we're going to see where his career goes and what can happen over these next couple seasons as he continues to develop and gets into the prime of his career. It's going to be interesting to see what we see next regular season. Does he go back to the player that he's been throughout his career thus far, averaging in the high teens, 18, 19 points a game, or does he step up and put up the 25 a game that we see from the elite scorers in the NBA? Going to be an interesting development that we look at next year, but for now, let's continue to witness the greatness of Jamal Murray because we are watching a once-in-a-lifetime kind of postseason performance that Murray has been lucky enough to give us this year. And we'll see how things go in the next game on Thursday. Down 2-1. Do they lose and go into another 3-1 hole where they found a lot of success, or do they even the series? After this break, we are going to look at the ex-Lakers from 2013 to present today, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, and the kind of team that we could create. And just so you know, this is from a Ringer article from Kevin O'Connor. Don't want to take anything away from him, but I found it was a very interesting read because I honestly think that the Lakers have been very, very poorly managed for this entire last decade. They just happened to get lucky enough to collect solid enough assets to build a package to get Anthony Davis, and a lot of things had to go right. LeBron James wanted to come to LA, and he wanted to come to the Lakers no matter what team they were providing him with, and they didn't provide him with much when he arrived. And luckily, his buddy Rich Paul represents Anthony Davis as well. We're not going to get into that too much, but that's another story for another day. But yes, after this, we're going to look at the ex-Lakers from 2013 to 2020 and the kind of team that we could build with those assets. Stay tuned for that after this commercial break.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back with us now, and we just finished discussing Jamal Murray and whether or not he's the next Kobe, Steph Curry, but for now, he's just Jamal Murray, and he has been playing out of his mind this postseason. We hope to see it continue in this series against the LA Lakers. Now, moving on to another Lakers topic, and we are looking at the all-ex-Lakers team, all the different players that have come in and out of LA since 2013, the last time the Lakers made the postseason before this year. And so, beginning between the 2013, 2014, and 2018, 2019 season, the Lakers have had 25 rookies on their roster. The only players that remain are the 2017 27th pick Kyle Kuzma and 2017 undrafted free agent Alex Caruso. So congrats to them for making the cut, because there's 23 guys who are no longer with the organization. 11 are currently without a full NBA contract, and the other 12 are scattered all around the league. Some were even difference makers this year on playoff contenders, while others have totaled around in mediocrity. And again, this is an article I read on theringer.com by Kevin O'Connor, one of the best young media journalists in the country right now. And it's crazy to think about. Like, I think I know basketball well, but then there's hundreds of thousands of people out there, guys such as Kevin O'Connor, that know the game so much better than I probably ever will. And I want to know how they do it. I feel like they're like players where they actually watch game film after game film after game film, and they're not even the ones going out on the court every day. So in this article, he looked at these 12 players that are currently still in the NBA. He broke them down into first team, second team, and honorable mention. But let's begin. I'm going to go through this a little bit. And I don't get what's up with teams like the Lakers and the Yankees that it's always win now mode for them. And it's probably because of the pressure from the media and the fans. But I don't get why these teams don't just play the long game every once in a while. Let some of these players develop, because over time, well, first off, they're going to be more affordable right now instead of throwing money at free agents every year. And secondly, over time, they're going to become better players, and looking at this list, it's astonishing the amount of talent that has come through the Lakers organization over the last 6 years. So let's begin with the first team. And the player we have up is Brandon Ingram, the forward for the Pelicans. He was drafted second overall by LA in 2016, and he was part of that deal that sent Davis to the Lakers while he went to the Pelicans. And this season, he made his first All-Star team and won Most Improved Player of the Year. We've gone to this discussion a couple times, and winning Most Improved Player is just that guy who sucked at the beginning of his career or sucked at the beginning and has gotten just a little bit better over the years. Not really the award you want to win. Maybe in a league like the NBA or the MLB, it's something that comes with a lot of pride. But when you're younger, it's simply that kid who sucked a lot at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year did not suck as much. So, yes, he averaged 24 points, 39% from three, 85% from the free throw line. And this is someone who could have been a huge impact for this year's Lakers team. Imagine him being the third option on a team with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And he never got the right recognition in LA. I think people were expecting too much of him when, again, this guy is only 22, 23 years old, has a lot more growth to develop. Because, I mean, you're not really a grown athlete in your prime until you're 27, 28 years old. And Brandon Ingram has a long ways to go before he gets there. He's been rated as a great defender early in his career, but this year had to guard a lot of fours rather than threes and struggled against the bigger defenders. He will be a restricted free agent this offseason, and most likely that's going to require the Pelicans to throw out a max contract. If I was them, I'd go with it. He's a perfect option next to Zion Williamson, who you could put at the 4 or the 5, put Brandon Ingram at the 3, with Derek Favors at the 5. So Derek Favors at the 5, Zion at the 4, and then Ingram can play his natural position of a 3, be able to guard players that aren't as big as the typical power forwards you see in the NBA, and I think that's going to help this team out defensively. I'm hoping they get Mike D'Antoni, because with this offense and Lonzo Ball, giving Lonzo Ball and Mike D'Antoni together, we're looking at a Steve Nash 2.0. I know, yes, it's kind of a crazy comparison, but I mean, Steve Nash wasn't the 2-time MVP before Mike D'Antoni showed up in Phoenix. So I think he can do a lot of good for this franchise that's looking to get into playoff contention and hopefully win a round or two next year. Next up, one of the most polarizing players in the league, D'Angelo Russell, guard for the Timberwolves, was drafted number 2 overall as well by the LA Lakers in 2015. It's crazy to remember that the Lakers had 3 consecutive number 2 picks from 2015 to 2017. And he was traded along with Timothy Mozgov to the Nets for Brook Lopez and a first-round pick that turned out to be Kyle Kuzma, one of the only players left on this team. And I don't think it was going to work out for D'Angelo Russell in LA after the whole Nick Young incident where he took a video of Nick Young admitting to cheating on his girlfriend, Iggy Azalea, a rookie mistake. And probably one of the funniest commercials you'll ever see was when Ben Simmons, I believe it was the next year, was coming into the league, and they have a commercial of, I think Ben Simmons is asking advice, and D'Angelo Russell takes Ben Simmons' phone and just throws it out the window. Great moment by the league, I would say, in terms of marketing their players. So Minnesota traded for Russell earlier this season, and he only had the opportunity to play with Towns for 1 game. They lost in a shootout with the Toronto Raptors, and after that, wasn't pretty for Minnesota and Russell. They went 3-9, posting the second worst defensive rating in the league over that time. And looking at the Minnesota Timberwolves overall, that's not a new issue. The team hasn't ranked better than 24th in defense since 2013-2014. So D'Angelo Russell, another great player in this league, is great offensively, but lacks a lot defensively. And that's why he's already on his 3rd team in 5 seasons in the NBA. Next up, Lonzo Ball, guard for the Pelicans, drafted number 2 overall in 2017. Was part of the deal, along with Brandon Ingram, Josh Hart, and multiple first-round picks that sent Davis to LA. We're going to be getting to a couple more players there. And with Lonzo, we have the perfect matchup of him and Zion Williamson. In only 25 games together, they connected for 8 touchdowns. And by that, it means a pass made from behind the backcourt line into the paint. That was second only to the 16 LeBron to Davis connections. He's a tremendous passer, a great defender, but he needs to improve as a shooter. He was better from the catch and shoot perspective, shooting 39% this year, but his free throw percentage, 57%. As a point guard, that is atrocious. You have to be able to make your free throws in this league, and you have to be able to shoot nowadays, especially as a point guard, someone who's typically regarded as a position that will hit open shots. We've already gone through 3 players on this list, and the first 2 are capable guards that, the Lakers, number one thing that they lack is solid guard play. They have the likes of J.R. Smith, Dion Waiters, Alex Caruso. Rondo has been playing at a near all-star level in the playoffs, but outside of him, they really lack guard depth, and I think they could really benefit from having kept one of these guys. Again, I don't know why they got rid of nearly every solid asset that they had accumulated over the last 6 years. Blows my mind, but Lakers fans, similar to Yankees fans, they just want to win now. They don't care what they have to do to get there. Next up, Larry Nance, forward for the Cleveland Cavaliers, drafted 27th overall in 2015. Another great late first round pick. And he was traded along with Jordan Clarkson to the Cavaliers for Channing Frye, Isaiah Thomas, and a first, which turned out to be Mo Wagner in 2018. He played small forward this year along Kevin Love and Andre Drummond and showed tremendous success. That he's more than just a dunker, hitting 37% of his catch and shoot threes the past 2 seasons. Next, the big on this ex-Lakers first team, Ivica Zubac, and probably the most idiotic trade that the Lakers made over the past 6 years. Out of nowhere, they traded him along with Michael Beasley to the Clippers for Mike Muscala. Basically, just gave away Zubac, a young big who's been a dominant paint defender in his early career. Opponents are shooting only 47% against him at the rim. That ranks second in the NBA behind only Brook Lopez. Another player the Lakers could definitely have used in this postseason, and they gave him away out of nowhere for basically nothing. Now, moving on to the second team, one of my favorite rotational players on last year's team, Josh Hart, now at the Pelicans. He was drafted 30th overall in 2017. He was part of that Davis trade, and the Pelicans have tried to utilize him in one-on-one matchups against the likes of James Harden and Kawhi Leonard, but at the end of the day, he's just not athletic enough to keep up with those players. But I believe he could be a solid rotation player on a title contender like this current Lakers team. He can shoot the 3, although he is streaky. He plays hard, and he's a winner. Just look at him at Villanova, where he won a national title. Moving on, Jordan Clarkson, a great scorer, and in this postseason for the Jazz, averaged 17 points with 2 assists to only 1 turnover. He'll be an unrestricted free agent this summer. The Jazz should probably sign him back up. Next, Julius Randle of the New York Knicks, and this guy has been all around the league in his 6 seasons in the NBA, starting with the Lakers, signed one of the only players not to be traded away, signed a free agent deal with the Pelicans, and the guy just can't get a break. He's an awful defender. He's been on terrible teams throughout his career. Can't shoot, clogs the paint. It's not all his fault. Again, he is playing for the New York Knicks, one of the worst franchises in the NBA. Now, next up, Thomas Bryant of the Washington Wizards. He was drafted in the second round, 42nd overall in 2017. He was waived by the team in 2018. And again, another guy who I think could provide some energy off the bench. And all you need to know is the guy gets buckets. Crazy stat here. Bryant scores 1.2 points per possession. That ranks better than 94% of the NBA. Just incredible. The talent that the Lakers have given up over the last 6 years. We have 2, maybe 3 perennial all-stars on this list. You got young players like Bryant and Mo Wagner who have shown glimmers of hope that could be fixtures on contending teams. The same could be said for any of these 12 players on this list. The only problem is the Lakers couldn't wait for that time to come, and that's why they are now all gone. Enough about the all-ex-Lakers team. Moving on after this break, we are going to a personal childhood favorite of mine on Nick's Picks today, and that is NBA 2K, the franchise. We are looking at the 5 best players in the history of this franchise. For anyone that's ever played a sport video game, you always know there's those players who just have that cheat code that they just make unstoppable in the game, like unrealistically good. Just look at Michael Vick in Madden 2004, Tiger Woods PGA Tour 08, Ken Griffey Jr. in Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball. I mean, of course, the guy on the title of the video game is going to be incredible. We're going to get into that and more just right after this commercial break, so stay tuned. Nick's Picks right after this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
And we're back on the GSMC Basketball Podcast, and it's everyone's favorite segment, Nick's Picks, where I, Nick Robin, give my take on everything basketball related, from best players of all time to best afros to best players to never win a championship and so much more. And on today's episode, we are doing the best NBA 2K players of all time. So NBA 2K is a basketball video game that has been going on since the year 1999. That was before the Xbox, before the PlayStation 2. I think the PlayStation 1 was available. And it came out on the Sega Genesis Dreamcast. And for those that don't know, this is my favorite video game of all time. I don't play any video games except NBA 2K. And during COVID, I've developed a bad habit of going back and playing video games. I've been addicted, going on live, trying to get to that Hall of Fame mode so I can put it on my resume that I'm in the top 99 percentile of all 2K players in the world. I know, kind of dorky, but you need to dream big right now during these dark times. So let's begin. We're counting down the top 5 2K players of all time. And we're beginning in the Bay, Stephen Curry. And for this exercise, we are going to go with the exact game. We're going to refer to an exact 2K game for each player. So with Stephen Curry, we're going with 2K16. And this was after one of Curry's best statistical seasons, is his back-to-back MVPs, the first unanimous MVP winner. He averaged 30.1 points per game that season, shot an astounding 45% from behind the arc. That just does not happen with the volume of threes that he was shooting. Curry was doing things that had never been done. The 2K creators had to change the way the three-pointer was shot in NBA 2K because he was making such absurd shots he was making video game-like shots in real life. So his virtual self had to become borderline absurd as well. Curry and the Warriors that year went on to win 73 games on the regular season with pure dominance, but as we all know, LeBron and the Cleveland Cavaliers had the historic 3-1 comeback in 7 games. Now, next up, best NBA 2K players of all time. I'm looking at Kobe Bean Bryant. NBA 2K6. He had a 99 rating. Actually, Shaquille O'Neal graced the cover of NBA 2K, but it's Kobe that gets the nod here. And it's hard to argue when he led the league in points per game at 35 a game, also a career high, on a ridiculous 27.2 field goal attempts per game. Life after Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe turned into quite a chucker, but the kind of chucker that resulted in a near impossible to stop NBA 2K player. A good NBA 2K post player could certainly utilize the 99 overall talent from both Tim Duncan and Kevin Garnett, but for most players, a 99 overall Kobe Bryant from 2006 is nearly impossible to beat. I mean, who wants to play with a post guy like Tim Duncan or Kevin Garnett? You want to play with someone like Kobe Bryant, someone who plays on the perimeter, can dribble drive to the basket, shoot from the arc, can take the rebound, go coast to coast on the fast break. No one wants a player that you're just backing up, and then throwing a little hook shot in. You want someone exciting, and Kobe Bryant is one of the most exciting players in the NBA 2K series. So there you have it, number 4, Kobe Bryant. Moving on to number 3, and it's got to be LeBron James. NBA 2K14. James was coming off his second straight NBA title with the Miami Heat prior to this game's release and was peaking with dominance around the league. Just go to the basket, press turbo, and the man cannot be stopped. It was his second straight MVP award, and the Heat were looking to make their 4th straight finals appearance, which they did. They ended up losing 4-1 to the San Antonio Spurs. That team, though, was just too much for a Heat team. However, James averaged 26.8 points per game, 8 rebounds, 7.3 assists, and playing with the Miami Heat in the 2K franchise was already unfair, but with James being the best player in basketball and otherworldly in a virtual world, the Miami Heat were another team disallowed in friendly competition. I remember having a 2K tournament when I was younger, and we made it a rule that you could not play with the Miami Heat because they were just too unfair of an opponent. Over the years, I feel like that rule has kind of changed a little bit as, of course, they made the games a lot more realistic moving forward and not allowing LeBron just to go to the rim whenever he wants. And when he can't get to the rim, he'll dish it out to a player. Next up, number 2, and we're going way back to NBA 2K1. The year's 2000, the big Aristotle has been chosen as the cover athlete for not only NBA 2K1, but 2K6 and 2K7 and all. But it's Shaq's best appearance as a big pixel following his 2000 season when he was both the regular season and NBA Finals MVP for the Los Angeles Lakers. At 28, he was at the height of his powers. He dominated that season. And from what we've read, that was the only year from start to finish where he put himself in peak physical condition, and it showed on the court, averaging a career high 29.7 points per game and a near career high 13.6 rebounds. The fun fact is his career high is 13.9 from his rookie season. He peaked in terms of rebounds in his first year. And 2K Sports rewarded this 2000 performance by making him one of the most destructive post players in the game's history. Pick and roll all day. It cannot be stopped. The only weakness, of course, is the free throw shooting, and I think they even made that a little bit too easy. Another nickname for Shaq could have been the big cheat code, because that's what he was in NBA 2K1. So there you have it. Shaquille O'Neal, number 2 on my top 5 best NBA 2K players of all time. Let's rewind it back before we get to number 1, and I don't think it won't be much of a surprise once I release that information. So we have at number 5, Steph Curry from NBA 2K16. Number 4, NBA 2K6, Kobe Bryant with that 99 rating. At number 3, LeBron James, NBA 2K14. And at number 2, Shaquille O'Neal, NBA 2K1. And the number 1 player on my list, it's no surprise, it's the GOAT himself, Michael Jordan. And could it be anyone else? Not only is Michael Jordan the best player in the history of the NBA 2K series, the NBA 2K11 is by far the best video game of all time. It allowed gamers to play through the most iconic moments of Michael Jordan's career, which in turn meant that more than one Michael Jordan was needed to complete the process. And let's take a little stroll down memory lane as I go down the Jordan challenges from NBA 2K11. And number 1, we have the arrival. Jordan, 63 points against a heavily favored and potentially greatest team of all time, the 86 Boston Celtics. The goal 1, score 63 plus points. Goal number 2, shoot 55% from the field. Jordan challenge number 2, we have the 69-point game, a career high against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Goal 1, score 69 plus. Goal 2, shoot 50% from the field. And goal 3, win the game. Number 3, we have the shootout. Jordan and Dominique Wilkins face off in some of the all-time greatest scoring performances of the era. Goal number 1, outscore Dominique. Goal 2, hold Dominique under 25 points. And goal 3, win the game. Number 4, we got the bad boys. Jordan against one of the best defensive teams of the early 90s. Goal number 1, score 47 plus. Goal number 2, win the game. Next, 1991 NBA Finals. Jordan finally silences the doubters by thrashing the Lakers in the finals. The goal number 1. So this one's interesting because you were playing 4 consecutive games where you had to average at least 31 plus points, shoot 55% from the field, and win the series. It doesn't mention it here, but I remember you also had to average at least 11 assists a game. Next up, we have the shrug. Michael Jordan scored 35 in the first half, made 6 threes, held Drexler to under 20 points, and of course, like all these challenges, you got to win the game. Number 7, the double nickel. After his brief stint in baseball, Jordan returns to the Garden, one of the best places for players to play. He drops 55 plus points, shoots 55% from the field, and wins the game. Number 8, you got the Father's Day victory. Michael ran the table over the entire league that year as the Bulls won 72 games in this challenge. All you have to do is score 22 plus points, grab 9 plus rebounds, and again, win that game. Number 9, the flu game. For those that don't know, a very ill Jordan still managed to dominate the game and hit the game-winning shot against the Utah Jazz in 1997. Goal 1, score 38 plus. Goal number 2, grab 7 plus rebounds. Goal 3, win the game. And lastly, Michael's last dance. June 14th, 1998, Game 6 of the 98 Finals versus the Jazz. 3 goals. Score 45 plus, get 4 plus steals, and as always, win the game. By far the best video game that 2K franchise has released in their 20 plus years of existence. And the crazy thing is, there's no other athlete, no other basketball player that could have a game completely dedicated to him than Michael Jordan, who has all these iconic moments in his career that you can literally construct an entire challenge around. Maybe LeBron one day, but for now, Michael Jordan's the only one that you can literally reference the moments. The double nickel, the shrug, the flu game. There's just so many great moments in this guy's career, and that's why he's the greatest 2K player of all time. Thanks for listening today, guys. As always, it was a great show. And as always, please do us a favor. Find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, shoot us a follow, leave us a comment on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you find your podcasts. Look forward to the next show. And before I let you guys go, it looks like the Heat are about to take a 3-1 lead against the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. And you know what that means for me? $200+ and hopefully that date. So thank you again for tuning in. To all a good night. We'll catch you on the flip side.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.